what all things you should keep in mind. And before that, let me give you a brief background about venture capital, so that you have a macro perspective also apart from micro. So what is happening is, uh, okay, so you can make money either by doing a job or by starting your own company, or you can make money through money by investing the money. And if you make money through a job, by salary, then the world is very brutal for you. It is very difficult world, because in India you get taxed 30%, in US you get taxed 40%, in UK you get income tax 45%. If you are staying in UK for more than 7 years, you get taxed. Even in Singapore, the taxation is less, but the cost of living is so high that if you are on a job, and if you lose the job, then it becomes very difficult to stay there. And in Dubai, if you happen to lose the job, then you don't have a, you need a sheikh, with a company who's affiliated to a sheikh to stay in Dubai. And if you happen to lose the job, the cost of living is so high, it will be a problem. But the good part in Dubai is that the income tax is not there. So you are saving a lot of money end of the day in rupee terms. uh, Now if you are in a corporate, then if you have your own company, then on the taxation front, in India the tax is, they are trying to bring it to levels closer to the international norm, which is between 20 to 25%. The US Trump administration uh, practically removed all kind of corporate taxation, especially on net profit. And the taxation there is very less. So basically the idea why they do these things is because they want that the rich people globally should stay in US and should not leave US. So they make it very convenient for the rich people in terms of taxation. And now coming to the most critical part, which is making money through money by investments. Now, when you talk about investments, the tax which is applicable is capital gains tax. And capital gains tax is zero in the US. And it is 10% in Singapore. It is 20% in India. It really term or short term capital gains. But India and Singapore have a double taxation avoidance agreement. So if you are operating in Singapore with a you have to pay tax only in Singapore. So there was a report which came, which analyzed the total tax paid by top 500 rich people in the last 25 years. And if you are on a job, you pay 30%. In US, you pay 40%. But these people, in the last 25 years, on an average, the top 500 richest people in the last 25 years have paid 3.4% tax. So the point is, if you want to succeed, the best way to do it is by investments. And investments can be across asset classes. It can be across stock markets, commodities like oil, gold. It can be real estate. It can be, latest is cryptocurrency. So basically, gold is seen as a hedge against the value of dollar falling down. So if the value of dollar is going like this, it is falling down since the last 20 years, because the US has been printing more and more dollars. And they moved all their manufacturing initially to Japan, then to South Korea, then to Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and then to China. So they don't have any manufacturing left. And manufacturing also moved out because labor is cheap in these countries, and land is cheap, and environmental standards are not there. So that's why now for every 1% of growth in GDP, which US wants to make or Europe wants to make, they have to print $7. For every dollar of GDP growth, they have to print $7. So the productivity of the dollar in getting growth is going down. And companies are taking more and more debt and delivering less and less returns. So this is what is happening on the profit and loss side. That companies are over leveraged. The rate of interest on debt is hardly 0.5%. And if you are taking loan in yen, the Japanese currency, then it's negative interest rate. And you have to actually pay the bank, if you want to keep your money with the bank. So looking at fixed deposit rates, India, it is 4.5% post-tax. In the US, it is 0.5%. Europe it's annually 0.25%. And yen is a negative interest rate. So the safest asset class, which is the fixed deposit, does not get you any return. So countries are telling you, go out and take risk. And the dollar value is falling continuously. So people initially, after 2008 Lehman crisis, they banged on gold. They said, dollar value is falling. Let us sell the dollar and put our money in gold. But gold is a finite quantity on this planet. Many countries have more gold. Many countries have less gold. So just because you happen to have some mines in your country, does it mean that you will become the richest country on the planet? So the US and Europe, which run global monetary policy on the back of dollar and the euro, they will never allow that. So they created a new so-called asset class, which is cryptocurrency. So they said, let us create a new asset, so-called asset class, create a new digital punt. It is a punt. It is a number on the screen. It is not a currency. You can't use that currency anywhere because it is not a currency. And so-called cryptocurrencies. So the governments are worried because people are betting money on it. And the richest people in the US who decided that let us create a new punt in cryptocurrency, they started getting banks to put in $500 million. Some bank is putting $700 million. The total value of Bitcoins outstanding, which is 18.5 million, the total value has become $2.5 trillion. So in this madness, it is madness. The countries are afraid. Chinese government is afraid. Malaysian government is afraid. Indian government is afraid. Why? Because once around 1 crore Indians have invested in crypto. Once from Elon Musk, it rises by 20%. Some bad news comes from China, it falls by 50%. So the day there are 1,000 people who own 40% of the Bitcoins. Now these 1,000 are very rich people. Once they decide to sell out of Bitcoin, then there won't be any floor to the value of the cryptocurrency. And then these 1 crore Indians so-called invested in crypto will rush to the government, hame bacha lo, save us, and ultimately the things fall on the government only. So the governments are very, they are telling everybody not to put money in these cryptos. Now, why am I telling you all this? It's up to the concept and phenomena, which is venture capital. So if you put your money, as I told you, in fixed deposits, which is the safest any return. If you put money in commodities, they are cyclical. So steel is now at the top of the cycle after 10 years of low cycle. And many of those commodities, they are, what happens is you are, the after 6 months, the steel price falls down. And then in 1 year, China shuts 30% of its capacity. Then the steel price rises. So it's very difficult to predict the highs and the lows of any commodity. And it is, believe you me, you might be thinking that there are mavericks who create alpha out there in the market. Let me tell you, the best fund managers have been making losses since the last 1.5 years in stock markets and in commodities and in cryptos and everywhere. One of MFC alumni, my senior, a huge hedge fund. I was sitting with this guy. His investment thesis, he sent that to me. It was amazing. Such a logical, very well thought out. And this guy has the practical experience of investing. And he has been making losses since the last 2 years because of volatility. There is so much of money being printed, dollars being printed, euros being printed, yen being printed, yuan being printed, that that money is sloshing around the world looking for returns. The money needs returns. And it is sloshing and creating bubbles. So real estate bubble, stock market bubble, the value of Tesla is $900 billion, which is more than the combined value of all other automakers. And Tesla will produce its first profit in 2023. So we are living in a crazy world. And, if you want to make money from money, one is stock market. You can put it in mutual fund or you can invest yourself. Now, if you invest in AAA rated companies like Reliance and HDFC, then they won't double overnight. You have to take risk in small caps or mid caps. If you are taking risk in small caps and mid caps, they might double overnight, but they might fall by 90% overnight. And Indian market is a high beta market. We are very emotions driven. So, stock market is governed by emotions, liquidity, and macro factors. Our beta is very high. When we fall more than the global average. When we rise more than the global average. So after 2008, when stock market started rising, India rose like mad. And at the time of 2008, when global stock markets were falling, India fell like crazy. So to make money in environment, from stock market, from cryptos, from commodities, from oil, from gold, or betting on other currencies, not easy. It's not easy. One of our seniors who was heading treasury at Singapore at Cargill Seeds, he told me, Tushar, for the entire year, I make so much of effort. I deliver around 9% ROI annually to my company's treasury. And I am awarded for that. I get 200% bonus. 9%. So what I'm trying to tell you is, read an incident about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, there was a hedge fund guy who flew from Europe to talk to him. He said, sir, why don't you give me a little bit of your money? I will give you. So Warren asked him, how will you give me the return? So he said, I will give you the return by stock markets, investing. So Warren Buffett said, let us do one thing. I'll give you $10 million and I will put $10 million in an index fund. And then the year regularly for 4 years. And we will see who wins. An index fund is a dumb fund. It is very simple. It is made up of the companies in the index. Like there are 30 companies in Bombay Stock Exchange Index, the Sensex. So there are HDFC, the top of them. HDFC is like world's darling. and Reliance, and they have all the good ones. And they keep on changing the index also, the index companies. So you will be surprised, rather you being finance students should not be surprised, that for these 4 years, the hedge fund guy could not beat the index fund. He was the best ranking hedge fund guy in Europe. He could not beat a dumb index investing, because so much money is chasing so less asset classes. So the volatility, the news driven direction of the share, it's not easy to make money, right? And the Chinese government, it is very leveraged. In 2008, the debt in the Chinese economy was 80% of its GDP. 80% of its GDP. Today it is 290%. And many government companies in China are defaulting on debt. So the market, the rich people, they keep an eye on all these news. That 2008 collapse when will it come again? At some point, at some point, the US Fed, which prints dollars, at some point it has to raise the interest rates to curb these bubbles. But the problem is, the moment it raises interest rates, suddenly everybody starts selling, and then there is a huge chance of a global. So everybody is passing on the pain to the future. Keep on printing money. Now, where does venture capital come? Venture capital is an asset class. Just like cryptos is a fake asset class, just like gold, just like oil, just like stock markets, like real estate. Similarly, venture capital is an asset class. It is driven by huge amount of money chasing returns from very few asset classes. It is the riskiest asset class, the startups. 92% of the startups which are there today will close down. In 1.5 years back, I was talking to a Startup India guy. So Indian government created DPIT, Invest India, Startup India. They gave 10,000 crore to SIDBI for lending to funds. So a lot of action has happened. So there were 30,000 startups registered in Startup India 1.5 years back. Only 1 month back, I was talking to them again. Now there are 1,000 startups got opened in 1.5 years in India alone. So venture capital of making money from the riskiest asset class, which is the startup, by a portfolio approach. The portfolio approach is you spray and pray. You invest in 10 startups, 7 will close down. 1 will struggle to survive. But the balance 2, 1 out of them might increase in value by 200 times, 300 times, 400 times, 500 times. And InfoEdge, the company which runs Naukri.com, it put 15 crores in Zomato. That 15 crores is 15,000 crores today, after Zomato got its IPO successfully done. 15 crores to 15,000. $50 million was the money which Sequoia Capital paid to WhatsApp and took a huge chunk in WhatsApp. WhatsApp got sold to Facebook for $19 billion, from $50 million to $19 billion. So you can imagine, what are we talking about? We are talking about returns which are not possible in traditional asset classes. But the point is, huge number of funds, they give suboptimal returns. The average return given by a VC fund across 8 years, as per one report, is 10.6%. It is not 100 times or 200 times. But some funds, they give you amazing return. So on consumer side in India, you have 6sense. 6sense is a fund which has consistently given a very good return. You have Fireside Ventures on consumer side. You have DSG Consumer Partners, Deepak Shahadadpuri. India is world's fifth largest economy at $2.7 trillion GDP in dollar terms. In rupee terms, world's third largest economy, a GDP of $11 trillion in purchasing power parity terms, PPP. And GDP is composed of investments, exports, and consumption. Exports, India is very bad luck country in terms of exports. Our factor of productions are traditionally higher than the global average. Hence, whatever products we make in manufacturing in India are priced higher than China. In 2012, the government at that time, it brought a land acquisition bill, which said if land is to be procured by the government, they have to pay 4 times the market value to the landowner. Compare it with China. You go there, land there, the IAS guy receives you at the airport, shows you land, within 1 day gives you land. Interest rate on loan in China is 2.5-3%. India, it is 10 to 12%. Because India has been a socialist country, so government borrows huge amount from the market and spends it, expenses it out. Instead of creating infrastructure, instead of creating capital capacity, it expenses it out by this scheme, farmer scheme, that scheme, some yojana, something or the other. So there is less money left with the private sector for debt or loans. So the private sector has to pay through its nose 10% and 12% interest rate. So land, labor, the government has laws which incentivize industries if they are small. If you have more than 20 labor, then you have to take a provident fund number. You have to take huge number of permissions. So there is an incentive to stay small. But you go to China, you find in 2-kilometer long factory. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that exports are traditionally low in India. We are not a part of the Asian value chains, the supply chains. Vietnam is, Malaysia is, Indonesia is, South Korea is, China is, Japan is, India is not. And our exports are $300 billion since huge number of years. It's only recently when China is at India's border that this government, they found out that Chinese government gives 6% cash back for every export yuan. On every export, they give 6%. So this government started production linked incentive scheme, PLI scheme. So Indian government is also giving now 6% cash back. That has increased the exports from $300 billion to $400 billion in a matter of 3 months. So GDP consists of exports, investments, and consumption. Exports, I told you, they are not much. A country like Germany exports $2 trillion. India exports $400 billion. So, second is investments. In 2012, the previous government, they followed a policy which was called scorched earth policy. After the 2G scam, they realized they will not win the election in 2014. So they emptied all the government banks. The government banks gave 20 lakh crore worth of loans. Out of 20 lakh crore, 13 lakh crore money did not come back. It was NPA, which means that the lending capacity of the government is very bad for investments. Investments in infrastructure, investments in capacity creation, investments in creating any kind of capacity. So the government has been ceding space in the banking market to private banks. The share of government banks in Indian banking market, debt market, was 70% and 30% was with private banks. Since the last 4 years, this government has been very wisely giving away share of the government banks to private banks. Now, the share of private banks in the Indian debt market is 50%, and rest 50% is held by government banks. Now, because of this reduced capacity to give project finance, the investments in India have been very low. Compared to the infrastructure created by China, which has always kept exports and investments very high so that GDP grows and consumption low. India, the major share of $11 trillion rupee GDP is consumption. We are a huge consumption economy. That is why you see Ramdev coming out with Patanjali, cutting the prices by 50%, and in no time, his turnover is 30,000 crores. Mamaearth, they are a D2C company, direct to consumer company. In 4 years, the turnover is 100 crores. Look at Boat headphones. They import from China, stamp it with Boat, and sell in the market through their website. It's a D2C company, direct to consumer. $100 million is the money they raised at the 4th year. So look at Licious, the company which delivers meat through its website. SoftBank invested and converted it into a unicorn. Unicorn means a company which has more than $1 billion value. There were 4 unicorns created in India in the first week of April. 1 week, 4 unicorns. 4 companies received so much of investment that their value increased more than $1 billion. There is a report by Credit Suisse. It is out there in the public domain. They said, although there are 35 unicorns in India, but if you look at their financials, see, you can just pay 100 rupees, go to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs site and download the audited account of any company. If you look at the audited accounts of other startups who have been receiving a lot of funding, you will find that actually on ground right now in India, there are 100 unicorns. And this craze of betting on the Indian economy, creating unicorns, is growing. Why? Because it has become very difficult to operate in China. if a Western country is operating in China, will steal your intellectual property and they will hand it over to a Chinese party. And they won't allow you to compete well with the Chinese companies. Any data of Chinese citizens which you get through your internet business, you are supposed to hand it over to China. You are not supposed to take it out of China. This trend of protectionism has been growing across the world. So India has coming out with a data privacy law. So all the data these tech companies have, Zomato, Swiggy, Big Basket, Milk Basket, Amazon, Flipkart, they have huge amount of data, and data has become a new variable. Mukesh Ambani, in its AGM 2 years back, data is the new oil. So he's selling 20% of his refinery to Saudis because the future is data, the future is renewable. And so it is very difficult to earn money from the Chinese economy. You have a huge consumer market in China. You have excellent infrastructure. You have all the facilities. But you will have to give your everything. You have to give your intellectual property. You have to give the control to a Chinese citizen and so on. So the next investors see is India. That is why they are putting this venture capital money in India. And the Chinese knew that India can be a huge venture capital market. So the Chinese have huge venture capital since the last 7-8 years. They are big investors, Alibaba, Tencent. They are big investors in across Indian startups, Dream11, Big Basket. They're all Chinese investment. Chinese are the second largest economy in the world. Naturally, they have the cash. Can you shut down the second largest economy in the world and say that we won't take your money? The Chinese have a huge fight with the Taiwanese. But still, the business which they both do is $600 billion. So they keep the business separate from the political side. Because you need money to grow big, to grow rich, you need outside money. And Deng Xiaoping, the guy who made China rich, said, money does not have any color. The color of the cat which catches the mice does not matter. So very soon, when the border issue gets solved, you will again begin to see huge Chinese money coming to these startups. Now, if you were to have a career in venture capital or have a career in a startup funded and get funded by venture capital, what should you do? If you want to have a career in venture, you have to know how to crunch numbers. You should know the financial model of the company at the back of your hand. And it is not rocket science. You just see a financial model, you start calculating ratios. Once you start calculating ratios, you will start getting a meaning behind those ratios. It's not rocket science. It's just that the hype around venture capital is huge in the market. That is why people think it is rocket science. But actually, it is nothing. And there is another reality of venture capital I want to tell you all today. If you guys want to open your own fund, be prepared to face this reality. What is this reality? That you raise money from the US and Europe, pension funds, endowment funds, rich HNIs, family offices, they give you the money. But if you were managing, suppose you as a person, you were managing $100 billion, how will you give that money to a venture capital fund? Will you give it on the basis of a presentation? Or will you give it, somebody said, no, this might happen, the value of this might increase, or this and that. The biggest factor for you while allocating money to venture capital funds is trust. You have to trust that this money will come back. Return is something which is separate. Return will come or won't come. It depends on a lot of factors. But whether your original principal money, original amount, whether the other person will give you back that amount, he's sitting in some other country, you are sitting in some other country. The most important is that trust. Now, if you are a guy who wants to open $100 million fund, you go to the US, you take meeting from KKR, from government fund, from CPIB, Canadian, from Brookfield, Bravia. You will have one meeting in 6 months. This is how difficult it is to get a meeting. When you get a meeting, do you think the other guy will give you your 50 million in one meeting? He will not give you. So you need 2 meetings, probably 3 meetings. Then you need hygiene factors. You should have the big 4, Deloitte, PwC, Ernst & Young, KPMG. You should have one of them as auditors. They want to see the best companies auditing their money. You should have an amazing office. You should have an team. IITs, Stanford, IIMs. So if you are spending so much of money, it takes a hit on your pocket. Then if you are able to raise money, suppose somebody gives you 25 crores, $4 million. What you charge from the investor in your fund is a carry. A carry is generally 2% and 20%. It means 2% deduct from the money he has given you for your office expenses, salaries, office, rent, electricity, auditor, and 20% you will deduct from the capital gains which you will make when you are making an exit from a company. 80% you will pass on to the investor. But you know the situation of exits in India? How many companies are able to get an exit in India? How many investors? Zomato is the first Indian tech IPO in the Indian stock market. It is a beginning of a new trend. Up till now, SEBI had a clause in the IPO document that if you are coming out with an IPO, 50% has to be institutional money you have to raise and 50% from retail. IPO comes, and if 50% was retail, you have to raise 8,000 crore from people who can contribute 1 lakh at a time, 1 lakh rupees. Will you be able to raise? If you are not able to raise, your issue will devolve. Like Emaar MGF issue got devolved. And once an issue gets devolved of yours, you will not be able to come out with an IPO again. You will have such a bad name in the market. So how Zomato IPO came? SEBI changed the rules. SEBI said these hot new internet stocks, these technology stocks, they make perpetual losses, but they have a huge valuation. Why should the investors from US, from NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, or from China, Shanghai Stock Exchange, why should they get the benefit of these valuations? So we have to change the rule. So they changed the 50% retail clause. In Zomato IPO, the retail portion was 10%. And that is one big reason why this IPO has come. Now, if you want to create a startup, always remember, having a profitable startup is the ideal. A startup which has unit economics on its side, which makes money on each unit it sells. But if you are competing in a market where your competitors are giving subsidies or cashbacks, so you will also have to give it. If you have to give it, you will be in losses. If you are in losses, how will you manage your cost? Staff salaries, marketing budgets, digital marketing budgets, distribution, continuous product development. We are living in a times when CI/CD is the continuous improvement, continuous development is the model for any technology platform. So instead of a P&L, profit and loss, you have to raise money from the balance sheet side, from equity. Keep on raising money from equity because equity is always valued at a multiple of profit and loss, at a multiple of revenue, multiple of EBITDA, multiple of net profit. So if Tesla sells one car, on the profit and loss side, it might be getting a profit of $10,000. But on the balance sheet side, because Tesla's shares, they are valued at a multiple of its revenue, it will make $10 million. So if you want to run a startup, first of all, identify a problem statement. What is the problem human beings face? This can be like in India, finding a taxi used to be so difficult globally. So Uber created an app and solved the problem on your smartphone. So the problem which you should be solving should be a fundamental problem for human beings. It can be an environmental problem. It can be a health problem. It can be an education problem. But if the solution incorporates use of technology, it will be very scalable. Because it will be very scalable, the chances of you getting exponential valuations increases. So if you want to create a startup, rather I should say the first thing you should do is have a good internet presence. Have a good website. Have a good blog. Write on medium.com. Appear in some talks. Video should be there on YouTube. Your passion about the subject should show. You can attend conferences. You can attend webinars. You can ask questions there. Have a good internet presence. Have a good LinkedIn profile. Very, very important. 7 crore Indians are on LinkedIn. It is possible to find any influential person on LinkedIn. So have a good LinkedIn profile. Then on the startup, as I told you, you should find a problem, find a problem statement. Then a solution to the problem. And after solution, you have to create a team. The team should be balanced. It should have marketing, product development, finance, technology. If you are creating a technology company, have a tech co-founder. It is not necessary that all the people in the team are co-founders. Maybe there are 2 or 3 co-founders and the others, they have ESOPs, employee stock option plans. Then the next thing you have to keep in mind is market size. You should target a market which is big enough. If you are creating a product for a very niche market, naturally your valuation will hit a glass ceiling in the few years from now. So digital out of home market, it's in India, it's 100 crore. I saw an amazing company. But even if they capture 50% of the market, their turnover will be 50 crores. 50 crores is not good for any investor. They want 50,000 crores. Then the product. Which product you are creating? If product is already achieved, it has achieved the MVP, minimum viable product, that it can make money. Then you can give the demonstration to the investor. After MVP, your product has to create a PMF, product market fit, which means all the aspects related to the product, like go-to-market, like distribution strategy, everything is tied up, like pricing, maybe differential pricing. Then the business model. Business model means how will you make money from the product? This is most important. 70% of the startups, 70, closed down because they created a product which does not have a market. So business model is very important. Then comes traction. What is the revenue you are doing right now? The investor is very happy to see you doing revenue already. It gives a floor to the valuation you are asking. If you are pre-revenue and you are asking for a valuation, there is practically thin air between you and the investor. But if you have a revenue, if you have an EBITDA, then you can just the valuation. The next is, what is your competition? Sometimes it is very difficult to explain your business model to an investor. But if you tell the names of the competitors, it becomes easy. But if you are giving the name of the competitors, you have to give the competitive advantages also of your product, of your company. How are you better than the competition? How are you different from the competition? Then you have to give 5-year financial projections. What is the revenue, EBITDA, operating profit, PAT, or cash flow? What are the cash flows available to your business over the next 5 years? Very, very important. Then you have to tell the investor how much funds you are looking for, the ask. And then how will you use the funds? How much will go in, how much in salaries, how much in expansion, how much in product development, and so on. And the last is, you have to give a future roadmap to the investor. that in how many months you will approach how many customers, in how many months you will open new markets, in how many months you will file an intellectual property, whether you will file intellectual property in Singapore or India. So these are very basic 10 or 12 factors which you have to keep in mind in case you are coming out with your own startup. If you are early in your startup, take money from friends and family, FNF. If you want to raise early money, then the options available in India for early money, early stage money, pre-revenue money, pre-seed money, the options are small tickets. The government will give you 25 to 50 lakhs. But the paperwork will take more than 1 year. Accelerators and incubators will give you up to 15 lakhs. 100x VC gives up to 25 lakhs. And angel investor, if he is a rupee investor who earns from rupees, he will give 5 lakhs to 25 lakhs. If the angel investor is, then he might give 2 to 3 crores or 5 crores, even 7 crores, $1 million. Then VC funds will give you between 1 to 10, even 15, $20 million. Not at the seed stage. Seed stage, they will give you in crores, 1 crore, 1.5, 2 crores. Family offices will give 50 lakhs or maybe 2 or 3 crores. So these are the options available for you. Always remember, you can always take help of advisors and mentors. Mentors are available in the market for 1.5% equity, 1 to 1.5%, 2% equity. And accelerators and incubators, their business model is they will take between 3 to 8% equity. And they have empaneled lawyers, CS, CA. They have empaneled all these people. So you will get access to cheaper services, whether it is cloud, you need AWS, Amazon Web Server, or you need the CA, CS, tax, and they have sometimes co-working space also. So they will give you co-working space also. But you will have to shell out between 3 to 8% of equity. The money raising scene in the US and Europe is much better for obvious reasons. They have the dollar. So if you go to Y Combinator, you will present your company for 10 minutes on the stage. After 10 minutes, the investors sitting there have to write a check for you. You get $100,000, 200,000, 300,000, whatever. And the agreement which Y Combinator signs with you, it is a one-page agreement, one page. It says that we are taking preference shares for this amount. And the preference shares will get converted to normal equity at the next investment round. 20% discount to the next investment round. Because they are investing right now and taking more risk, they get a discount to the next investment round. The discount is typically between 5 to 30%. And there is a very beautiful clause which Y Combinator agreement has. If you guys want to read Y Combinator documents, they are all given on Y Combinator website for free. Every document is given for free. So the beautiful clause in Y Combinator document is, if you happen to get enough cash flow from the business, you can return Y Combinator's money as a debt. You can just return it back and give some small interest, 0.5%, 1%. That kind of a benefit is not available in India. In India, if you have to take a debt, then you have to give a collateral to the bank, your real estate. And you should have enough cash flows in the company to service that loan. So that Y Combinator type benefit is not available. But having said that, a lot of liquidity is available in the Indian market. Another part I want to tell you about is how do global venture capital investors look at India as a market? You will be happy to know they are very impressed with the Indian consumer. The Indian consumer is price sensitive. The Indian consumer takes time to take a buying decision, sometimes months. They talk to 50 people about a buying decision. So the PMF, product market fit, created in India of any product is valued a lot by these investors. They feel that if a product achieved a good PMF in India, this product can easily sell in 170 other countries. So what they do, they in contract enforcement. If you have to enforce a contract, the courts here, lower court, session court, high court, Supreme Court, will take more than 20 years. So the contract enforcement is zero. So what do the foreign investors do? They create a holding company in Singapore and they create a subsidiary in India. Flipkart got sold to Walmart for $21 billion. One very big reason why $21 billion came into an Indian company was that Flipkart had a holding company in Singapore. So Walmart was sure that its $21 billion are going in a place which has contract enforcement. So they create a holding company in Singapore. India and Singapore have a double taxation avoidance agreement. The capital gains tax in Singapore is only 10%. The liquidity available in Singapore is 5 times that of India because it's a financial hub to the entire Asia. They create a subsidiary, step-down subsidiary in India. They create product market fit in India, but they file the intellectual property in Singapore. Because the money available against intellectual property in Singapore, it's huge. You can just put your intellectual property as collateral with the Singaporean government and they will give you $20 million, $50 million. Once you make money, then you return that money and take your intellectual property back. Singapore is ranked number 1 in the world in intellectual property backed funding. Then human resource is rated the top. We are like, our education system creates clerks. We are Macaulay's children. Macaulay, which created this clerk like education system. So we are taught about physics, science, we are taught about history, we are talked about geography of the world, but we are not taught entrepreneurship. We are not taught cash flows. If you read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you know that the taxes on the investment side are lower than the income salary side, then naturally it makes sense to become a businessman. To govern your team by using cash flows. All the CXOs, they have to use cash flows to govern their team. The costs are already there. The office expenses are already there. The staff salaries are already there. If the top line, the revenue does not come, your cash flows come in a negative. So end of the day, you have to drive your team for the top line, the top cash flows, inflows. So cash flows is what every CXO uses to manage the team. कि भाई धंधा लाओ, धंधा, पैसा लाओ. Are you taught that in the school? Nobody bothered to change the British system. The British change their system every year. But we are stuck with a 100-year-old system. France completely changed its constitution. India, if you even tell that you want to make a committee to review the constitution, they will say that disrespecting Ambedkar. So employees kept in the subsidiary company, back office is in India. Top management sits out of Singapore or Dubai. This is how investors look at the Indian market.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but we have already reached the time limit.
Yeah, I was about to end. I saw some questions on the chat.
Yes, exactly.
So whatever questions you want me to take, I'll be happy to take.
Yeah. So
and I will request everyone to add me on LinkedIn. If the chat is open, I can put my LinkedIn profile there.
Yes, sir, it is open.
Okay. Yeah, please.
So meanwhile, Sayam, you can ask your question.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, as you have also mentioned regarding the exit strategies. When the venture capital firms seek any opportunities, they might have some rough idea about their investment horizon in the portfolio company. So at the end of this investment horizon, if the exit strategy that they may have anticipated in the beginning might not turn out to be well, like in case of the IPO, the markets are not well, or in case of the strategic sale, they might not find any buyer, so there will be liquidity risk in that case. So how these concerns are taken into account by these VC firms?
You have to know the term sheet which the VC issues. It's a 15 to 20 page long. It has a lot of legal jargons. I can explain you the entire term sheet, but I will keep myself to the exit clauses. So there are certain staggered step down exit clauses which the VC puts in any term sheet. The first exit clause is the company will come out with an IPO, because IPO provides 24/7 liquidity, not 24/7, but 10/7, 10/6 liquidity. And the second option is the company will buy back the equity from the investor by giving him the promised IRR, internal rate of return. Third option is the founder will buy back the equity from the investor by promising a certain rate of return, IRR. The fourth option is, if these three doesn't happen, then the founder, the company, will find a third investor by getting a fair valuation done from a third party and ensure that the investor buys these shares from the initial investor. The fifth is, if nothing happens, try mergers and acquisition. So you merge your company on a stock transfer basis, like housing. I think it merged with the OLX or Quicker. There was no sense. What is the sense of housing merging with OLX? But they just wanted to find a solution, so they did that. And there are certain other clauses which give benefit to the investor. One of them is tag along clause. tag along clause means that if the founder of the company is selling his shares to any investor, a new investor, the old investor can tag along with the founder and sell his. Then there is a drag along clause. It means, suppose the investor is holding 25%. He is getting an investor who wants 51%. So the balance 26% shares can be dragged along from the founders. And the old investor can sell 51% of the company to the new investor. So there are huge number of clauses in the term sheet. If the investor protects himself, the investor has info rights. He can call for any information from the company anytime. He has right to get the audited financials of the company. He has right on the board of directors. He can take a seat or take an observer position. Then there are certain reserved matters. There is a huge list which is put in the reserved matters. Like if the company is selling a big asset of the balance sheet, then the investor's permission has to be taken. If the company is recruiting a very costly CXO, then the investor permission has to be taken. If the company is entering a new market, then the investor's permission has to be taken. So exits traditionally have been very difficult in India. But in the US, Google and Facebook eat up or buy almost 600 companies every year between them. Google, Facebook, Netflix, Apple and Amazon. FANGs, they are called FANGs. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. They buy around 600 to 900 companies every year. So they ensure that no new technology can threaten them. In India, we did not have this buying ecosystem. But this is changing. After Jio got $44 billion from these investors, Jio became a big buyer. So Kalari, which is managed by Vani Kola, part of her portfolio has been bought by Reliance. They have bought Urban Ladder, they have bought Milk Basket, they have bought a number of companies. And in the race to create a super app, Tatas have turned a buyer of these new age technology companies. Tata have bought 1mg, they have bought Big Basket, and Reliance has bought NetMeds. So you have these kind of exits also available now. Apart from, of course, the IPO window has opened for these loss-making. The change in rule by SEBI. And a lot of IPOs will now hit the stock markets. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Next question is from Srihari, I think. Srihari, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, sir. Sir, what do you think? How long these loss-making companies like Zomato and Flipkart going to survive? And once they can't make any profits and they file for bankruptcy, what will change? How the entire startup ecosystem and venture capital ecosystem will change?
See, you have to be very mindful of the fact that why is the loss coming? Why is the persistent loss coming? That you have to take in mind. WeWork, look at its business model. Find the best location in the city, build the costliest infrastructure, and rent it out, take it on 15-year lease, 15 years, and rent it out to people who don't have a job. Rent it out to the gig economy. So that is why the losses. And when the IPO of WeWork went down, it devolved. So when these people opened the books and saw what was in it, it was a business model which will never make money. But look at Amazon, world's biggest company, and Jeff Bezos, richest man on the planet. Till date, they are making a loss. 1994 to 2021. But the investors are lapping up their shares. Why? See, end of the day, money has to come from somewhere. Either it comes from profit and loss, PAT, or it comes from the balance sheet shares. The cash flow में कहीं से तो आना है पैसा. So Amazon comes from the balance sheet. Why? Because Amazon, whatever cash flows it makes, it invests that money to create new capacities, to create new infrastructure, to enter new markets, to create new businesses. So the investors say, okay, this company does not give me a dividend, does not give me dividends. But the size of the company grows every year. Every year it enters 5 new markets, creates 5,000 new warehouses, enters into Amazon web server, enter into OTT, Amazon Prime, enters into, so the company, keeps on creating records. And because money is freely available, dollar is freely available, a lot of it is being printed. So whatever new markets they create, whatever new product they create, gets a valuation benefit. It is created by Amazon. So immediately its value is billions of dollars. So you have to look at why losses come. That is the most critical part.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we'll take the last question from Ankur. Ankur, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hello, sir. So my question is regarding the discount provisions you talked about. Like how do the investors and the startup founders decide among themselves whether to put a discount provision or say a valuation cap? Because ability factor, while as the valuation cap clearly puts that this should be the valuation cap. We cannot predict. The founder cannot predict, the investor cannot predict that in next series A, B, C, how heights can the startup reach?
Thank you for your question. So when preference shares or debentures are taken by any investor, mostly the reason is that two reasons. One, the valuation is not certain. Founder is saying 100 crores, investor is saying 2 crores. So they say that let us leave the valuation to the future. So sometimes what they do is they build a formula for the valuation in the shareholders agreement. So the formula can be that 1 year from now, whatever EBITDA the company has, 25 times EBITDA would be the valuation. So if the company performs well, then the dilution is less of the founders. If the company does not perform well, then the dilution is more. But in the case of Y Combinator, they don't like to get into first, working out a formula and everything. They are very factory approach. They give you 10 minutes to speak on the stage. Then they give you the check. Then they make you sign 1 page, then bye-bye. So they keep it very simple. Whatever valuation will come at the next investment round, and a higher risk. So he should get a discount to that valuation. And the discount is between 5 to 30%. Usually it is 10%, 20%. Usually it is 20%. So this is how it works. And the second reason why investors prefer debentures and preference shares is because you can have a coupon on it. You can have an interest rate on it. So you take preference shares, you keep 14%, so that till the time your preference share gets converted to equity, you will get interest. So it acts as a loan. So basically preference shares, debentures are quasi-equity, quasi-debt kind of things. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a great session. Now I'd like to invite Aditya to present a thank you note.
Thank you, Sayam. So on behalf of Department of Financial Studies, Fraternity, I want to express our gratitude to you for taking out time of your busy schedule and speaking to us. We had a great time. Hope it was a joyful experience for you as well. as a token of gratitude, we would like to present you a tree which has been planted in your name. Our only regret is not being able to host you in person. I hope you will give us an opportunity to host you on our campus when things get back to normal. Once again, thank you so much for interacting with us, sir.
Thank you so much for this certificate. It really means a lot. Sorry, for planting a tree. I always wanted to plant my own tree. So part that all of you were so attentive and gave me proper time to explain everything. I hope I tried my best, and happy to talk more in the future whenever possible. And welcome to join my LinkedIn or see my website, and whichever way I can be of help. And all the best to all of you. Thank you so much.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
Have
Have
a
a
good
nice
day.
day, sir. Yes,
Thank
bye.
you.
Take care.